By the time the bells were done tolling for the trial, the light over the Blackwater had softened to wine. The ragged gold of evening lay upon the roofs and spires, and a hush followed the clamor, like a held breath, like a city with its fist inside its own mouth. On a balcony high in the Red Keep, wind worried the silk banners until they hissed, sun and spear trembling beside the lion rampant, as if both emblems were animals waking from the same uneasy sleep. Oberyn stood with his hands upon the rail, face shadowed, eyes half-lidded as if listening for a note only he could hear. The metal taste of the day's blood lingered under the faint salt of the sea. He had dressed as he always did, in a cascade of yellows and burnished oranges that should have made him soft to look at. But he was a hard brightness, like sunlight seen through water, like something that burned behind glass. When he leaned forward, the rings on his fingers cut brief threads of light that dangled and died. Below, the yard where the combat had been fought had been scrubbed to a dullness that tried and failed to deny what had happened there. Men hurried with buckets, with rakes, with carts that creaked beneath the weight of stained straw. A physician of the citadel and an uncredentialed man who smelled of cloves argued with tight smiles over the particulars of a dying giant's humors. Gregor Clegane still breathed each breath a labor, a bellows worked by frightened apprentices. But Oberyn had known even before he drove the point through the slit in the visor that the man would not see another sunrise. The logic of venom was always patient, always complete. It had not been the victory he had imagined when he rode through the city gates weeks ago. He had thought of thunder, of a roar that broke the surface of everything and showed what lay under. He had thought of a clean split in the world before and after. But the crowd's noise had been a confused thing, part exultation, part panic, part the animal whine of people who think the world might be ending again but are not entirely sure whether that would be better. The gods had spoken, yet men muttered, and Tywin Lannister's mouth had tightened until his entire face became a fist. "The gods," Oberyn said into the wind, "seldom make men grateful." Ellaria came to him barefoot, her steps noiseless over the stone. When she slipped her hand under his elbow and he felt the familiar small crescent scar just below her wrist, earned years ago when a drunk had misread a glance in a tent far from Sunspear, his breath loosened in his chest. She had changed her dress between the yard and the balcony. This one was simple, the sort of thing that would not snag if she had to run. There was oil in her hair that smelled like oranges packed for a long journey, and he saw that she had not tried to wash all the dust from her skin. Grit still marked the lines of her collarbone. "Tywin will not yield," she said. She spoke as if tasting each word for poison. "Of course not," Oberyn said. "Yielding would be a kindness to him." "He will try to make of today nothing more than a bad dinner," she said. "He will turn his plate, take another bite, pretend nothing is different." "He will try," Oberyn said. "Your eyes," she murmured. "They are not with me. They are with my sister," he said, and the word sister entered the air and hung beside them a moment, visible in the way her gaze moved to the city and then back, visible in the way he pressed his mouth together, as if to keep more words from leaping out after it. "The rooms where she is not. The rooms we left empty for her." Ellaria's fingers tightened on his arm. "The mountain is dying. It does not pay her back," he said. "But it is a coin. What will you buy with it?" He did not answer. He watched a gull ride a current toward the sea, mouth open as if laughing, and then angle off toward the broken ships that dotted the harbor like teeth shattered at the gum line. Footsteps announced Hoda before he was within sight. No one else moved so assuredly inside his silence. He bowed his great head to Oberyn and then to Ellaria. The haft of his long axe leaned against his shoulder, at ease, as if it were an old man drowsing after wine. But Oberyn had seen him bring it up in less than a heartbeat, to parry steel that should have taken off another man's ear. Dust had powdered his boots to the ankle, a thin, pale glove. "My prince," Hoda said. He hardly ever used titles for Oberyn, counting them unnecessary between men who carried one another's safety like a brazier. Tonight the honorific was a hinge. It opened and closed something in the room that did not have walls. "The hand has sent for me?" Oberyn asked without turning. "He expects you for supper," Hoda said. "He expects you to come in through the door he names." Of course he does, Oberyn murmured. He smiled without mirth. What is the flavor of it? The summons was delivered on stiff paper, Hoda said, and the boy who carried it looked as if someone had beaten humility into him with a chisel. Ellaria made a small sound that Oberyn felt in his ribs rather than heard. It is a trap, she said. Everything in this city is a trap, Oberyn said. Even the sky. Have you looked? It hangs as if someone has strung it there with a rope and might take it down. Don't go, Ellaria said. Or if you must, then go in with 20 of our men at your back, with spears leveled, with Ario's axe proud as a banner. He will call that an insult, Oberyn said. Then let him call it what he likes, she said. It will be truth. Better an insult than a dirge. Oberyn was quiet. The wind adjusted itself around them. From far below rose the sudden rattle of wheels over cobbles, a cart arriving at the keep's gatehouse, then a guard's coarse voice and a laugh that disappeared into the thick air. Somewhere in the city someone had begun to play a reed flute. The thin, wavering notes sketched out AM. Elodie that tripped over its own feet and recovered, tripped and recovered, as stubborn as weeds in a courtyard, as cheerful as water escaping a broken pipe. 20 would be a declaration, he said. 2 would be an error. 1 might be an answer. An answer to what? Ellaria asked. The letter had no question on it, Ario said. Oberyn's mouth turned. There are always questions, he said. If he will not ask them aloud, I will answer them before he has the courage to shape them. Hoda stood watchful. Ellaria stepped around him, planted herself in his sight line, forced him to look at her. She was fierce when she was frightened. So many men mistook her heat for softness, and then found their palms blistered. If you go alone, she said, you will die alone or live alone. I will not have either. He set his palm against her cheek. She did not lean into it, not right away, but he felt that she wanted to. Her eyes were dark and quick and angry. I do not go alone, he said. You forget I am vain. I will take vanity with me. I will take the long habit of not dying. I will take the memory of my sister, and the memory of 10 women who asked me to stay and woke to find a warm hollow in the bed where I had been, and the memory of a boy who chose a thorn bush just to have an excuse for his tears. I will go in with all my old sins and a few I have gathered here. I will go naked of pride and armored in spite. That is not nothing. You make poetry when you mean to make promises, she said. I do not promise, he said. I intend. The Tower of the Hand was a hive. Men swarmed past each other in its passages carrying orders in their mouths like honey they dared not swallow. Oberyn saw the way their eyes slid when he went by, the way they tried to look both at him and not at him, the way their shoulders held themselves like tongues between teeth. A page lifted a knotty hand to touch the sun and spear pin at Oberyn's breast and then thought better of it. Somewhere a woman was weeping, but she might have been doing that for anything, for a child's broken tooth, for a husband's back that would not unknot, for a cat that would not return no matter how much fish you left on the stoop. When the door to the Hand's solar opened, light spilled like beer. Tywin Lannister had chosen a public brightness for a private room. It was a thin, exacting light that showed flaws by the simple fact of allowing sight. Tywin believed in that kind of exposure. He had built himself out of it. He did not rise when Oberyn entered. No one had expected him to. There were men with swords in the corners who were designed to be ignored until they were not, and men with quills who were meant to be visible so that the swords would not need to be. On a tray, a goose lay with its skin lacquered to the color of old coins. The fat around it had cooled and gone to a cloud. "My lord," Oberyn said, and moved to the table only after the shape of the room had revealed its weapons. "My prince," Tywin said, with only the infinitesimal pause that called attention to the syllables while pretending not to. "The gods have delivered their verdict. I have sent for salt." "For the goose?" Oberyn asked, taking a seat as if he had come to hear a poem. "For the yard," Tywin said. "Some stains resist. Salt does not argue." "I have found argument makes a man's blood move," Oberyn said. "Your men spent it freely today." "Your man too," Tywin said. "We will see what survives him." He lifted a knife and pressed it against the goose's crisp skin. The skin crackled, fat bled, shining. A good general knows that a battle which seems concluded is often beginning. A good general knows when to cut meat and when to carve nations, Oberyn said. He reached for one of the little green fruits that had been placed between the goose's legs. They were sour cherries, discreetly sugared. Your sense of boundaries is, I will admit, one of your talents. You are impertinent, Tywin said. He did not sound insulted. He sounded as if he were reciting a measurement. It is a kind of charm. The city is very taken with you. The city is hungry, Oberyn said. It is taken with anything that looks like bread. It is taken with heat, Tywin said. And spectacle. It will eat fire if you feed it fire, but it will still wake wanting bread. Feed it bread then, Oberyn said, and placed the cherry on his tongue. He did not bite it. He let the sugar dissolve. He watched Tywin watching him not bite it. The bread you have been baking is sour. It cracks the teeth. He moved his jaw a fraction. Juice spread. Do you know what I liked best today? Tywin set down the knife. It sounded like an argument ending. Do tell me, he said. The words were carefully neutral, as if they had been weighed on a scale. The silence at the last, Oberyn said. When the mountain fell and the crowd was still arguing with itself whether to cheer or scream, and for a moment neither impulse could win. There was my sister's name inside that silence. I could hear it. It had room. You are mistaken about the value of silence, Tywin said. When men are still, something very loud is often happening that they are trying not to hear. You are mistaken about the value of sound, Oberyn said. You think all noise can be commanded. Cannot. Some sounds go on by themselves and carry men with them. Watch. You will try to instruct the city how to hear what happened today. It will fail to understand you and proceed to think for itself. You will be offended. Tywin's mouth did not move. I am not often offended, he said. I am often obeyed. That is different, Oberyn said. He placed the cherry's pit on the plate with a considerate click. The men with swords shifted slightly, a small tide. You sent for me to acknowledge the god's decision, and to instruct me how to bear my popularity. I sent for you to test you, Tywin said. Men show their true size when the heat of a moment cools. He gestured to a chair. Sit and eat. Oberyn had already sat. He had had no intention of eating. The goose exhaled the faint bitterness of something that had been roasted expertly and then forgotten just long enough to know it had been unloved. Tywin carved himself a slice with a surgeon's economy and ate without pleasure. You have what you wanted, Tywin said, chewing. The mountain's confession will be arranged and proclaimed. He will die. If his measure outlasts your patience, we will hasten it. The trial by combat acquits your dwarf. Keep him or cast him aside. I am indifferent to the fate of trash. Oberyn smiled and did not show his teeth. It would have been a bearing. You want me to help you decide what to do with the latter, he said. I want you to stop pretending you are a creature of pure vengeance, Tywin said, irritation steel bright now in his tone. You are a politician. You like to think the word does not apply because you prefer oranges to apples and beds to benches, because you do not dress like a soldier when you are one. But you move pieces. You are not a storm. You are a book of accounts. You want something from me or you would not have stayed in this city past the first cup of wine. Oberyn tilted his head. I want many things. I am a greedy man, but I find it useful to ask for them one at a time. What is the first? Tywin asked, cautious. An apology, Oberyn said. Tywin looked at him as if someone had coughed at an opera. You have it, he said. For whatever pleases you to believe I owe you, you have it. Ah, Oberyn said softly. How graceful. But that is not an apology. That is a dismissal wearing good manners. I want an apology that costs you something. I have made apologies that cost me armies, Tywin said. Do not romanticize price. What coin will buy your contentment? Contentment, Oberyn said, tasting the word. You think I could be bought to contentment? I might even prefer to be. Imagine how restful. But no, not that. He leaned forward, hands flat on the table. I want you to say my sister's name. I want you to say her children's names. I want you to say that the men you commanded did a monstrous work, and that you do not sleep well for it. Tywin did not laugh. He did not even permit his nostrils to widen. I do not permit myself the luxury of sleep badly earned, he said. Orders I gave ended an animal disorder. The city was being devoured by a madman's madness. I chose to pay now instead of later. It is the only reason you can sit there and play at being the wind. Do not lecture me about cleanliness while you smear oranges over the world and call it sunlight. You are not a fool. Do not pretend to be. I will take that as a refusal, Oberyn said, and the edge of his voice was as clean as the edge of a blade being tested on silk. If it pleases you, Tywin said. It does not please me, Oberyn said, but it is clarifying. A servant with shoulders that had been shaped by fear rather than work came to pour wine. Oberyn touched the rim of his cup to signal no. Tywin drank. His throat worked, thinly. You are a man who likes clean endings, Oberyn said. I confess I do too. Untidiness offends me. See, we are not so different. I have a gift for you. I dislike gifts, Tywin said. They are a way of writing debts in ink that will not wash out. Then call it an exchange, Oberyn said, and set upon the table a small stoppered vial he had carried in his sleeve, glass the color of smoky quartz. Tywin did not reach for it. He did not even look at it properly. He lifted his eyes to Oberyn as if the vial were a common fly buzzing at the edge of a mirror. What is it? Tywin asked, deliberately bored. Justice, Oberyn said. Tywin's mouth shifted, the ghost of a smile that wanted nothing to do with humor. Is it heavy? He murmured. Very, Oberyn said, and the word hung a moment before falling. Then softly, say her name. Tywin did not fill the silence. He had learned to endure discomfort with the same discipline with which he endured pleasure, consuming both like bread, sparingly and as necessity dictated. He lifted his cup and drank again. The wine must have tasted like any other. If there was a difference, he did not show it. He set the cup down with a tiny hollow sound. Your brother? Tywin said, as if changing the subject. But nothing ever changed. Subjects turned and showed other faces. Is a man who prefers to read a book and pretend it is a sword. He will not thank you for what you do tonight. My brother and I have made an art of not thanking each other, Oberyn said. Say her name. No, Tywin said, almost gently. No, then he frowned. A small, purely physical response to a discomfort low and new in his body. He put a palm to his chest, not theatrically, not as a focus of pathos, but almost with curiosity. Pepper? He asked absurdly, and was annoyed to have asked. Not pepper, Oberyn said, and watched him rediscover his cake of flesh from the inside. Watched him realize that he was mortal in the way that men remember winter only when snow is in their shoes and not an hour before. The light in the room felt wider. The men with swords in the corners began to be visible again to themselves. The men with quills put down their quills because their hands had started to sweat. You cannot think, Tywin said, forcing the syllables into order by strength of will. To what? Oberyn asked, calm. To kill you? In your room, in your light? Men will call it many things. They will tell the story the way that makes the world possible for them. You will not care. Your experience of caring will end before theirs even begins. Tywin rose. The chair moved, not quite falling. He put both hands upon the table's edge and leaned his weight there as if about to push it over. There was a new dampness on his upper lip. When he tried to speak, he had to wait for his body to climb to the place where the words were. The CI. Ty will not forgive you, he said, lips white. It does not yet know what it must forgive, Oberyn said. That is tomorrow's story. Today's story is that a man who would not say my sister's name discovered that he was not the exception to a single rule. Names or no names, the blood knows one thing. Tywin looked toward the corner where the swords were, and the swords stepped toward him and then hesitated. There are kinds of hesitation that hold men whole. there are kinds of hesitation that break them. This was the latter. Someone's scabbard edge knocked against the jamb of the door. It sounded like a small animal shrieking. "Do not hurt them," Oberyn said to no one in particular, and took the vial back into his sleeve. "They did not choose." He stood, unhurried. "I do not grant you absolution," he told Tywin. "You do not want it. But I grant the city a night in which to come to terms with the world that is arriving. It will not love me. It will not forget me." Tywin opened his mouth as if to spit. What came was a thread of bile that broke on his lip. He made no sound. The weight of him drew him down like a seabird struck suddenly by an unseen wave. He slid to his knees and tried to negotiate a seat with the floor, found that the floor would not bargain, that it would have him in one posture only. When his head hit the leg of the table, it made a low wooden noise, the kind that carries across a room and stays. There are many deaths in a city. Some are loud and celebrated like saints. Some are small and folded into other business. This one had the shape of a room drawing breath and deciding not to let it out. Then movement returned with its customary rudeness. The men with swords moved. The men with quills moved. Somewhere a woman began to scream the way a kettle boils. Ariohoda took one step forward and became the only door. "Out," Oberyn said. His voice had lost its ornament. "Take your dead lord out of my way." No one argued. They moved like men leaving a temple after an earthquake. Too carefully, too aware of how soft their skulls were. Tywin was lifted. Someone's ring caught on the embroidery at his shoulder and tore a small constellation out of the gold thread. A fresh stain spread over the goose's skin where a hand had fallen. It looked like a map of a country that had never existed. Oberyn went to the window. The city had not yet learned what had happened. It still sounded like itself. The reed flute had been replaced by a woman's voice somewhere in the warren below, rising and dropping in a minor mode that had traveled a long road to get here. The wind moved the banners so that the lion hid and the sun and spear showed. Then they changed places, as might be expected of symbols. Ilaria was waiting in the corridor when Areo opened the door, and she knew before she was told. He saw the knowledge cross her face like a moon shadow, a small cooling of the air, a brief dimming of everything that would pass and leave only the new clarity behind. "So," she said. "So." She took Oberyn's hand and looked at his knuckles as if she expected to find them written on. "We will not go home soon." "No," he said. "Is there a home?" she asked. "That we have not yet made?" "There is a seat," he said. "There is a thing people desire to sit on." "I have heard it is uncomfortable," she said without inflection. "I do not plan to sit," he said. "I plan to stand upon it long enough to speak." "In this city," Ariohoda said, "speeches are best made with shutters shut and guards who have eaten within the last hour." Oberyn smiled, and this time some light reached his eyes. "Yes," he said, "but not always. Some words must be said so that there is no door to close behind them." Word went out and returned in a scatter of birds. It reached a Tyrell maid before her mistress. It reached the kitchens before it reached the queen. It found Varys among his ragpickers and a boy across the river who made small dogs dance for copper on a string. It slid under the door of the White Sword Tower and jagged the breath in the chest of a man who had spent his adult life trying to be the kind of man who did not lose his breath to such things. Jaime sat with the white book open upon his lap and watched a fly explore his maimed hand. The fly had more curiosity than fear. It did not apprehend humiliation. The pages were a frost of names and deeds, the small cold comfort of history curated and arranged. He had not written the last years of his entry. It had not seemed possible to write them as he had lived them. The ink would look like corrective, like apology, and he had not yet decided if he believed in either. When the knock came, the book shuddered, not because knocks could travel through paper, but because a certain kind of sound uses the bodies of men as its instrument. Ser Boros muttered. Ser Meryn put his tongue between his teeth and bit it gently, as if reminding it that it could bleed was a kindness he did not always have time to grant, and left. He returned a moment later with his mouth set like a hand closed around a blade. "The hand?" Ser Meryn said, and then blinked twice. a man swallowing a piece of information that had grown spikes mid-swallow. The hand is dead. Jaime felt the small muscles at the back of his jaw move of their own accord. He closed the book because there are actions one must perform even when they are irrelevant in the face of what comes next. How? He asked, and when Ser Meryn shrugged, that beautiful elastic shrug of the ignorant brave, Jaime thought for one sharp second of the red owned by a cloaked Tywin had made him wear when he was 12, of the gold thread couched in it, of the way his father's hand had smoothed the folds as if to make sure the boy knew himself wrapped inside law. Cersei had thought of wildfire. She had not given the order. Her mind had turned the idea over the way a woman turns a jewel in a window, seeing how it looks under one glass and then another. Absorbed by brightness, alive to possibility, not yet convinced that the price is greater than the pleasure. When the news came, it found her with her hair unbound, sitting because she had sat down to count what power she had left that was not dependent upon a man's continued life. She did not weep. She had learned to ration tears. She stood and went to the window and looked out at a city that would not for long be as she had learned its gestures. Somewhere a mill wheel went on turning. That insulted her, the way the ordinary survives the profound. Tommen, she said, and the name was both a command and a prayer. Bring me Tommen, bring me Qyburn, bring me every ounce of silence you can find, and we will build a fortress out of it. In the kitchens, a woman crushed garlic with the heel of her hand and then stood very still. She had loved Tywin Lannister in the way a woman can love a man she has never seen. She loved the regular wage his name had meant. She loved the way the men drank less when they had hope of being paid on Tuesday. She did not love him now. She loved the knife in her hand and the onion that needed cutting. She did not like the sound a child made when the child understood that the rules had changed again. At the end of a narrow alley, a man who had once been a bard and then a spy and then a nothing listened to the word pass, marveling as he always did at the way language moves at once like water and like plague. Varys drew his cloak closer. He had numerous plans, one or two ripened, most waited. He could smell the future the way a man can smell rain when the sky is still a hard blue. Someone jostled his shoulder and apologized with a sincerity that was worth nothing and everything, and he smiled and moved through the crowd as if the crowd were water and he a fish. That night, men in the Red Keep slept as if asleep were a game, waking to check that sleep still had rules, returning to it hurriedly as if embarrassed to have been caught suspended between versions of themselves. Oberyn did not sleep. He sat upon a bench in a long gallery where the light burned fitfully and listened to the sound of his own intent. Illyria came once and placed in his hand a cup of something that would have warmed him if he could be warmed. The first sip tasted of almonds, the second of something else entirely. He set it aside. "You cannot be king," she said, almost conversationally, as if discussing a dish on a long table. "They will not have you. They will not be asked," he said. She leaned a shoulder against a pillar and watched his profile with a lover's honest cruelty. "That is a king's sentence, not a prince's. I have been accused of worse confusions," he said. Then, more softly, "This is not play. I would laugh if I were playing and could lose as a lesson. If I lose here, it is not me who pays. The poor always inherit the adventures of the brave." "Then don't be brave," she said. "Be clever. Be patient." "I have patience," he said. "I have it by the cask. But it must be poured someday." "And if it spills?" she asked. "Then it will wet the floor," he said. "And we will walk through it and carry the smell with us, and everyone will know what we did. There is power in that, too." When morning came, it opened its eyes slowly. The sky was a color that had no name in this city. Men invented words for it on their tongues and forgot them before they turned to tell someone. A man brought Oberyn a bowl of water and a cloth. Once, Oberyn would have washed his face with a theatrical thoroughness, a performance of waking. Now he dipped his fingers and let the cold have its way. Outside the throne room, a crowd collected as crowds do when they are told to disperse. With the stubborn lamplit looks of people who have paid taxes to see a thing and are determined to get what was promised. They had not been asked to come. They had not been invited not to come. Some had bread. Some had stones. Almost all had hunger. Before the great doors could be opened, there were words. Men of the city watch with tired eyes knew better than to put their hands upon the wrong shoulders. A captain of the Goldcloaks who owed Tywin a favor that could no longer be repaid tugged his beard and spat, and had the sense not to give an order his men might refuse. In a side passage, a Tyrell guard remarked to another that roses do better in full sun, and then asked himself if he had meant to say it out loud. A priest in pale robes nodded and unknotted his sash, the way a man prays when he fears his god listens too literally. Oberyn entered by a door that no one had thought to close. He did not come with 20. He did not come with a procession. Ariohoda walked behind him, that was all. The rest was a music he made with his face and his hands, a way of holding his body that made space behave differently around him. He did not ascend the steps to the throne. He stood at the bottom and looked up at the thing men had made of knives. It was ugly. That had always been part of its appeal, the way it terrified the eye into submission. Ilaria, watching from a distance where she would go unnoticed by anyone who did not know her, thought briefly of a nest of blackbirds fused into a crown in a lightning strike, and then put the thought aside because thoughts like that made it difficult to eat, and she intended to eat. "My prince," said a man whose name Oberyn did not know but whose job had been to announce men whose names he did not know. "Where is the hand? What is the hour's order?" "The hand is concluded," Oberyn said, and the words went out into the room and were swallowed by the walls and came back changed. "The hour's order is that we decide how to live." There was a movement, a shift, a ripple. The throne room is a tide pool for fear. Men who have learned to hunt among those currents felt their mouths wet. Cersei appeared where a stone might have been and was not. The line of her neck was a blade. Tommen came after her, sleepy and disoriented and too gentle for this particular morning. Qyburn moved like a man moving a heap of quilts that happened to be his own bones. "You presume," Cersei said, and her voice was not large but it was precise. It entered the ear and lodged there. "You presume beyond even your considerable habit. The Iron Throne is not a stool to be borrowed." "I have borrowed many stools," Oberyn said. "I have returned some of them. Others I improved on." "You will leave," she said. "You will leave before my son's breakfast cools." Oberyn looked at Tommen. The boy had a cowlick near the crown of his head that had not been smoothed. He had the general air of a creature who would have preferred to keep a cat and talk to it. "I am sorry," Oberyn said, and the words were honest and not meant for Cersei. "If the world made any sense, I would give you a boat and letters of transit and send you to a small island full of books. But the world is itself, and this throne is not your mother's. It is not yours because she has had it and would keep it. It is not mine because I have had it and will keep it. It belongs to whoever can convince the most people that today will become tomorrow if he sits on it." "You killed my father," Cersei said. "Yes," Oberyn said. "You think that makes you different from the men who killed my boy?" she said, and the boy was not Joffrey in his mouth but in hers. In her mouth it was the infant who had looked up at her with the gaze of a goldfish and not yet learned to order the world. "You think your words make a gospel of your hate." "I think," Oberyn said, "that names matter. I think that saying them out loud is a way to keep men from becoming nothing more than numbers. I think that if the world must be cruel, then it must be accurate." "Accurate," she said, and laughed a small clean laugh because sometimes laughter is the knife a woman has when all the other knives have been taken. "You will rule this city with accuracy? You will bring justice that stings like nettles and call the rash a crown." Oberyn tilted his head. "That sounds like a plan," he said. "If I had a quill, I would note it." He looked away from her to the room itself. "People of this city," he said, and the room drew itself around the words the way a shawl gathers around a pair of shoulders. "I am Oberyn Nymeros Martell of Dorne. I am a man who has made of his life a road, and slept on both sides of it. I am the brother of a woman murdered in this city. I am the victor in a trial I did not begin and the witness to a death I did not decide. I have come to tell you a thing you may not choose but you will remember. There are crowns made of permission and crowns made of iron. There are crowns you are granted and crowns you take. Today I take this one, not for the gratification of sitting where 100 hard men have sat and found their backs ache, but because if I do not, another will, and his first act will be to make certain that the names I carry with me are not spoken again. Our law, someone said, perhaps Pycelle, perhaps no one, perhaps the room itself. Your law is a linen stretched over a body to keep it from offending the eye, Oberyn said without turning. Lift it and tell me what shape you see underneath. Tell me the names of the shapes. Tell me how many days you propose to hold your noses and call that governance. You are not of the blood. Came from somewhere near the Tyrell, not of men. A careful line thrown out to see what it would find. You are not. I am of the blood that matters, Oberyn said. I am of the blood that remembers. My sister lay with a king, and bore him children, and died because men believed that their own lives would be easier if she and they did not live to make the world answer to them. He did not look at Jaime, but Jaime felt looked at. You have taken what you wanted from Dorne without courtesy for longer than I have been alive. For 70 years before this city burned and 20 afterward, you told your children that the deserts at your southern edge were useful only as a wind to dry the clothes you had washed with someone else's labor. Today the wind comes inside. It is warm. It will dry your tears and your blood. By what right? Said the priest who had knotted and unknotted his sash and now could not remember which knot had been the prayer and which had been the fear. Do you claim? By the right of my hand, Oberyn said and lifted it. By the right of my voice. He lifted that too. By the right of the names I have borne with me and the ones I will learn. By the right of the spear and the sun and the salt and the laws I will write out loud where all can hear and none can pretend not to have heard. I do not wish to lie to you. If you do not give your consent to this, I will take it. But I will pay for it. I will pay for it in coin that is mine to spend. I will not borrow your children to satisfy my vanity. I will borrow your courage and give you mine for interest. He turned to look at the throne. He stepped onto the first step. He did not climb. He stood there as at a well and listened for the depth. Someone, not Cersei, laughed. Someone gasped. Someone began to count under his breath. For no reason other than that counting sometimes keeps a man from feeling the wind take hold of his lungs. Ser Jaime, Oberyn said, and Jaime jerked only internally because the body of a Kingsguard is trained to respond to its own name without letting the face admit it recalls it. You have spent your life keeping a book. Come here. Jaime did. He stopped at the base of the steps. He did not look at the throne. He looked at Oberyn's face, searching for the thing that would tell him which path to take through the day. Oberyn's face would not give that away cheaply. Do you know why they hate you? Oberyn asked, conversational, and low enough that the room had to lean in to pretend it was not listening. They have told me, Jaime said, often and with artistry. They hate you because you make their lies visible, Oberyn said. You broke a promise to keep a promise. The world prefers its promises simple. It will always hate the man who makes them complex. Serve me. Jaime blinked. Serve you, he said, as if tasting the syllables, finding them all present and accounted for but strangely arranged. You have a Kingsguard. I have a chair made of knives, Oberyn said. I intend to make of it a platform. I will need someone to remind me when I am about to step on my own neck. Jaime's mind was a room with two doors open. At one, he could see Cersei framed like a portrait. At the other, he could see a smaller shape, boy-shaped, with a cat in its lap and a piece of bread in its hand. Both were real. Both were his. And what would that service look like exactly? He asked, and if it sounded like a man pretending to bicker to give himself time to choose, perhaps it was. It would look like a man staying in the room when people shouted at him, Oberyn said. It would look like a man refusing to be bored by the poor. It would look like a man interrupting me when my hands are too eager and my mouth too sure. It would look like a book with pages that do not smooth flat. Cersei will kill you, Jaime said, a fact offered without heat, as one might offer weather. If she cannot, she will find someone who can. I will be killed someday, Oberyn said. I try not to let that spoil today's food. Jaime stared at him and then down at his own hand. He had trained himself not to touch the stump when he spoke to men he needed to perceive him as entire. He touched it now because this did not appear to be a mourning for lies. If I say yes, he said, You will make of that yes something that tears me all the way down the middle, and if I say no, I will tear myself anyway. It appears I am to be halved regardless. I am sorry, Oberyn said. He sounded as if he meant it. I did not break you. I will try not to use the breaking more than I must. Jaime smiled, surprising himself with it. Your bedside manner, he said, is a marvel. It has been remarked upon, Oberyn said, and then he turned his head to the room at large. Hear me, he said. I claim this throne by right of necessity and speed. I claim it by right of memory. I claim it by right of a city that cannot afford to be ruled by fear of the last war anymore. I claim it because someone must, and because if you choose for me to be that someone, you will have chosen. If you do not choose, you will still have chosen. That is the trick of choice. There is no outside of it. There was no crown ready. Such things are rarely ready for unprecedented mornings. A boy found a circlet that had been used to keep a tapestry from slumping on one side and gave it to a man who tried to keep it and then realized he could not afford to keep anything. It came to Oberyn like that. A bruised ring of gold meant for nothing grander than gravity. He took it and lifted it and did not place it upon his head. He held it beside his chest where his heart was, to show that he did not misunderstand where such a thing weighed. Dorne, he said softly, and those who were from Dorne or had loved someone who was or had been warmed by it made a sound that could have been a sigh. Westeros, he said, and the room felt, for a heartbeat, as if it were too small for its own name. I will be king, he said, and then, I will begin by being careful. I will disappoint you all. I will not apologize for that. I will try to make the reasons for the disappointments public, and let you rage at them where I can hear. I will require you to say the names of those who die because of me. I will say them too. Blasphemy? The priest whispered, but quietly enough that the word could pretend not to have been born yet. Cersei closed her eyes. It was the only mercy she would grant to anything. When she opened them, they were the color of a metal that had remembered how to take a polish. You will not live to see winter, she said. Perhaps not, Oberyn said, but someone will. I intend to make him less frightened. He lifted the circlet, then, and set it upon his head with the gravity one uses to set down a bowl of water in which a child might see his face. It was wrong for that head. It made a mark anyway. The room took the shape it takes when men agree to a thing because not agreeing will cost them more than they have at hand to spend. There were no cheers. There was a sound like wave wash, talking, a dragging of sandals, a cough, the sudden hard laugh of someone who could not help it. Then there was silence again, the kind that has furniture in it. In Sunspear, an old man sat with his feet in a shallow pool and let the water take the heat out of his ankles. Doran Martell had slept in the chair where he now sat. He had slept badly and in small pieces. A girl with quick hands and a quicker mind departed the room as soon as she saw his face, because she respected him and intended to disagree with him later and wanted to do it at full strength. A messenger who had run from the tower through 3 courtyards looked as if he might prefer to be struck by lightning rather than by the news he carried. Say it, Doran said, and the boy did, and the words went out into the hot air and settled upon the water and did not sink. Areo Hoda, who had not left his prince even in sleep, could feel another man's long axe in his hands for a moment, the one he had not lifted in a room in a tower by the sea. My brother, Doran said, and placed his palm flat upon the poolside stone to keep the world from tilting. My brother. He is king, the boy said, as only boys can say a thing that ought not to be possible as if it were the daily bread. He has named himself king of Dorne and Westeros. He has named the sun, Doran murmured. He has named the sea. He has named fire. He has named the thing that eats both when it has time. His ha. Nd trembled. Fetch quills. Fetch men who know how to write without falling in love with their own lines. Fetch my daughter. When Arianne came, she came laughing. The laugh died without apology when she saw her father's face. She knelt because it was useful. Say it, she said to him, and the habit of their family passed between them. The habit of making words the first tool. He told her and watched the ways in which her body did not move. She had learned that from him. She wore it now like a weapon. "So," she said. "So, what do you think?" Doran asked. "I think it is what he would do," she said, and the pride in her voice sat above the fear like a bird on a boy's finger, ready to fly or to peck. "I think it is what we would all have done if we were brave enough to risk the thing behind the thing. I think we must either kneel in the sand and let the sun eat our shadows, or stand and cast longer ones." "You will not kneel," Doran said. "Not in public," she said, and smiled with her father's mouth. In the Red Keep, Oberyn named a council. Tyrion did not come when called. He sent a note that smelled of stale wine and ink and said only, "I am trying to believe in tomorrow and find I have mislaid it." He is clever enough to have hidden it from himself. One must respect craft like that. Oberyn sent Areo to fetch him. Areo found him in a room that had not been used since a queen had failed to bear a child there. The air still held the memory of a woman's breath. Tyrion had arranged himself with an intention that failed at the edges. His eyes were too bright. His shirt was wrong by half a button. He rose when Areo entered and said, with a kind of ruined courtesy, "Have you ever killed a man for a reason that looked noble to you and then realized by breakfast it had been nothing but a way to make your own reflection tolerable?" "Yes," Areo said. Tyrion looked at him as if he had expected to be refused that comfort. "Good," he said. "Good. Then you will understand when I tell you that I cannot be anyone's hand because my hands are full." "Full of what?" Areo asked. "Blood," Tyrion said, and went, "because there are men to whom an invitation is much more dangerous than a command." He took his time coming to the throne room. He stopped to talk to a boy who had lost a dog and to a girl who had found a scarf. He made 2 men laugh and 1 woman angry. By the time he arrived, his face looked almost like a man's face again. "You called?" he said to Oberyn. "What an ugly hat. You should have asked the seamstresses to make you one. That appears to be a nice circle of remorseful brass." "It is temporary," Oberyn said. "So are we all," Tyrion said softly. He looked at the throne and then away, as a man looks at a cliff edge and then finds, unexpectedly, that he wants a drink of water. "What do you need from me?" "I need you to weep loudly and publicly when I ask you to," Oberyn said. "I need you to tell me when a joke will do more good than a sword. I need you to tell me when I am building a tower that is actually a wheel and will crush the men I meant to lift. I need you to make a list of the names of those who died today because of what we did, and read it to me at supper, and not let me pretend I have somewhere else to be." "I can do that," Tyrion said. "I can make lists. I am not much good at stopping the dying." "Neither am I," Oberyn said. "But I will try to make it honest. Do you accept?" "Accept?" Tyrion muttered. "What a sweet word. I accept. Today I accept. For the sake of the version of myself that still believes in the next hour." "Are you naming me hand?" "Saints save us from symmetry." "I am naming you my annoyance," Oberyn said. "I am naming you a stone in my shoe. Let us see if we can walk better for the pain." Olenna Tyrell asked for an audience and brought with her cakes that tasted of lemon and a smile that tasted of arsenic. She sat without being offered the courtesy and took Oberyn's measure the way a woman buys cloth, with quick fingers and without the pretense of flattery. "You are quite a thing," she said. "I meant to dislike you, and now I find myself admiring you quite against my will. It will pass. All infatuations do. This is my granddaughter, who is clever enough to be bored by most men and kind enough to let them think she is only delighted." Marjorie inclined her head the exact amount that made men want to stand straighter. "Your Grace," she said. "Do not call me that," Oberyn said. "It will get into my bones, and I will never wash it out." "Then what shall I call you?" she asked, earnest with the kind of ease that comes only from repetition. "Oberyn," he said. "Very well, Oberyn," she said. She had the word smile. "You appear to have a city. You will need food and love for it. Love is cheaper. Food will be the problem. Love is cheap only for those who have never paid for it in full," Olenna murmured. "We have ships and grain. We also have a patience for boredom that could fill 7 cathedrals with sermons. We will watch you and see whether you are an event or an epic." "I am a mood," Oberyn said. I hope to become a habit. And the little king? Olenna asked. You have not beheaded him. I applaud restraint. It is not your best look. You should practice it. I will make him my guest, Oberyn said. I will make him my pupil. I will let him keep a cat. Marjorie's gaze slid over him like a silk oversleeve. And a queen? She asked, as if the word were an insect she held by one wing. Will you have one? I have a lover, he said. I have an appetite. I have no interest in pretending that one will make housekeeping of the other. You will find this city less flexible than your deserts, Olenna said. It likes certain stories and has poor digestion for others. Then we will feed it carefully, Oberyn said. She smiled, thin and frightening. We will feed it what we choose, she said, and let him hear the threat in the mercy. Do not mistake our forbearance for impotence. Do not mistake my laughter for surrender, Oberyn said. They both smiled. Men in the room who thought themselves experienced in danger found their tongues odd in their mouths. It had been a long time since they had seen anyone who enjoyed being alive in a way that did not require him to pretend not to do harm. At night, when the lamps were lit and the city made of itself a galaxy, Oberyn stood again at the balcony. Illyria came to stand beside him. He did not touch her. They were beyond soothing. They were in companionship, which is rarer and better. What do you hear? She asked. Making, he said. Men are making versions of me. They are telling each other who I am. I will be 1,000 men by morning. Most will be worse than I am. A few will be better. And which will you believe? She asked. Whichever keeps me from growing dull, he said. Whichever makes me less certain and more honest. I am, after all, a man who has put a circle of warmed gold upon his head and told the world it was a crown. I will require a daily corrective. You will have it in abundance, she said, and they stood together in a light wind that brought the memory of salt without its sting. In the west, in a chamber filled with lions carved by men who had never seen a living one, a boy who would be a lord in theory leaned over a table and spat on a map because it pleased him to watch the wet spread. His aunt took his wrist without looking up from the ledger she was balancing and said, "Do not waste water." And he pulled his hand back because he had learned to fear the sound of her voice more than the sight of its source. In the north, men looked south and learned to calculate distances again. Stannis Baratheon, who had made habit of turning his stubbornness into a plan, listened to the new story coming up over the hills and murmured to Davos something about order and theft, the way one might speak to an old friend about a fire that might be a hearth and might be a forest. Across a sea that had more names than lovers and fewer honest ones than either, a girl with dragons dreamed of a man in yellow and orange standing upon a chair of knives and calling it a platform. She did not know his name. She would learn it. It would lodge in her mouth like a seed. In Sunspear, Dorne wrote letters as carefully as a man sutures a wound. He sealed them with wax that did not adhere the first time. He reheated the spoon and tried again. He thought of his brother dancing with words in a room where men had nothing to pin them to but their fear and their appetite. Love fought with fury in him. He had a son who limped and daughters who did not. He had a people who had been asked to become a wind. "Send this to the Reach," he said. "Send this to the Vale. Send this to the Stormlands. The North will read only what it likes. Send them nothing but our regard and a record of our granaries. The West." He stopped and closed his eyes and saw 1,000 green hills like teeth. "The West will send itself. We will wait." Arianne came and sat and put her head upon his knee as she had done when she was 10 and wicked. "Shall I go to the capital?" she asked. "Shall I kiss my uncle's cheek and tell him his crown sits well?" "You shall go," Dorne said. "You shall kiss him, and then you shall count the knives. You shall ask the city whether it loves being spoken to by a man like your uncle. You shall tell me whether its hatred has in it the seeds of a love that can be of use." She lifted her head and smiled. "You will make a stateswoman of me," she said. "You will make yourself," he said. "I will attempt the lesser miracle of not interfering too much." In the capital, morning broke again, as it always does, with less courtesy than men want and more honesty than they deserve. The first decrees came like bread from an oven whose door had stuck. They were imperfect, strangely shaped, and hot enough to burn fingers used to claimed entitlements. Oberyn ordered the granaries opened. He ordered the hands of the city watch washed in front of the people they had beaten. He ordered a list made of all the names of the debtors thrown into the cells of the Red Keep in the last year, and hung the list in the market with a piece of chalk tied to it so men could add the names the list had forgotten. He ordered the bells not rung unless someone could point to the reason with his hand. He ordered the pit in the yard filled up and a tree planted, and laughed at himself when he realized nothing would grow there for a decade. "You are making too many enemies at once," Tyrion said, pencil in his hand in place of wine. "Spacing is everything when one builds a tower of rage." "It is not rage I am building," Oberyn said. "Rage is cheap stone." "What is it, then?" Tyrion asked. "Memory," Oberyn said, "and obligation. Men can forget rage when their stomachs are full. They cannot forget a promise they made in front of a crowd." He called for the builders, then, and told them to raise a dais and platform that would make of the throne a stage from which a man could step down without slicing his ankles. He called for the priests and told them they might preach in the yard if they agreed to let the poor stand in front. He called for the butchers and told them the price of meat they would charge in the next month. "You are not a market," Cersei said, finding him in a corridor where the light fell in anxious little panes. "You are not a priest. You are a man with a ridiculous crown and an unwarranted belief in speech." "I am a man," he said, "who intends to become a sentence. Men can be killed. Sentences can be repeated." "I will unmake you," she said, and her breath smelled of mint and hunger. "I am not yours to unmake," he said, "but I have been unmade many times. I will recognize the knife if you bring it." He slept that night for the first time since the trial. He slept little and badly and well, the way a man sleeps when high. His body insists. He dreamed of his sister. In the dream, she was not dead. In the dream, she was making flatbread and singing nonsense with a child on her hip and scolding him for the way he was holding a knife. He woke with tears in his ears and laughed at the indignity of it and did not wipe them until they dried. At dawn, he went to the platform that had been built and stood upon it and told the city how it would go for the first 7 days. "I promise nothing after that," he said. "I may be dead, or I may be wiser." He looked out at the listening faces and felt for the first time the physical weight of what he had done press evenly upon his shoulders. It did not crush him. It made him taller. "Say her name?" Someone cried from the back. A voice that could have been planted or not. It did not matter. He said the names, all of them, and men stood for it and women sat for it and children made of the names a game and mispronounced them with a ferocity that brought something like peace to the bones of the men and women whose names were being used. A raven came at noon with a strip of parchment tied to its leg and a handwriting that had taught itself to be cautious. It was from Dorne, and it was not a blessing. It was not an admonition. It was a line thrown across a river. Oberyn read it and felt relief and humiliation. He folded it and put it in the pocket where he kept his sand. "Your brother approves?" Tyrion asked, a smile that was half malice and half sympathy making his face look good again, for a flawed man's value of good. "My brother approves of nothing that cannot be revised," Oberyn said, "which is why he is invaluable." On the 5th day, the West sent men with faces carved out of stone. Kevin Lannister came because he had to. He sat and did not shift and made of his indignation a tiny precise fire by which he warmed his fingers. "You have murdered my brother," he said, and it was not accusation but predicate. "You have taken a throne that is not yours. You will choke on it." "I have choked on worse," Oberyn said. "Sit, se Kevin. Eat the dates. Tell me what you intend." "To take your head," Kevin said. "Later," Oberyn said. "Tell me what you intend today, given that you will not succeed in your greater intention if you die before breakfast." Kevin almost smiled. It frightened him into scowling. He said his piece. It was a careful piece. It left him many doors open. Oberyn listened and believed none of it and all of it, which is the only way to listen to a man like that. In the street below, a girl of 10 stole a plum and ate half of it and gave the other half to a boy, who had let her sleep under his mother's table when the storms were loud. They did not know that their city had a new king. They knew only that for 3 days, the men with sticks had struck more softly and apologized after, and that a man with bad teeth had stood on a box and recited a list of names as if they were spells, and that at the end of the list someone had cried and someone had laughed and both had been permitted. "You wanted them to love you," Illyria said into his neck that night. "You wanted them to feed you love the way you have always fed yourself danger. You will starve." "I will eat their contempt," he said. "It is nourishing." "You are lying," she said. "Yes," he said. He began to learn the shape of the resistance he would face. It was not a single thing. It never is. It had many voices and many pockets. The faith would grow brave if given the breath for it. The Tyrells would bide and then move all at once. The West would send money before it sent soldiers. Varys would smile and then vanish and then return with a 2-headed toddler and a prophecy pinned to its hat. Littlefinger would wash his hands on the veil and then come down among them with palms immaculate and an invoice. Stannis would argue with the North and with necessity and with the burning desire he named duty. Across the sea, fire would dream of orderly men. Beyond the wall, winter would talk in its own grammar. Oberyn learned the city's hours. He learned when the fishmongers threw away fish and why. He learned the name of a woman whose husband had been swallowed by work and did not know how to be a widow because he was not dead and did not know how to be a wife because he was not present. He learned a boy's trick for making pigeons come to a hand that had never seen a gentle thing. He learned how loud silence could be when he spoke a name and could not make the echo stop. Sometimes he stood at the base of the throne and looked up at it. Sometimes, when no one watched, he looked afraid. Not because of death. He had done that too often to fear it properly. But because of life, because of the size of things that must be forgiven and the smaller but no less impossible list of things that must not. He took counsel where he could. With Tyrion, he made jokes because their jokes hurt less than their sorrows. With Jaime, he spoke about duty as a pain in a joint and what one does to keep such a pain from changing the way a man walks. With Marjorie, he spoke about appetite and performance. With Olenna, he spoke about knives disguised as embroidery. With Illyria, he spoke about nothing, the kind of nothing that lets a man put down what he carries. He wrote as Doran had taught him, and as the women who had loved him had demanded when they wanted proof that he had been present. He wrote laws that were short and mean and honest, small nets to catch big fish and let small ones through when they must. He wrote letters that were long and generous and cruel, depending on the recipient's usefulness and the kind of morning it was. He wrote a list of names and kept it by his bed and read it when he woke and when he lay down and when he put his mouth to Illyria's shoulder and tried to sleep. He went down into the cells where the debtors lay and looked at their fingers. "Work," he said. "I cannot forgive your debts. Money is a god that punishes free will, but I can give you food if you will work for the city. Build me a road that lets a woman carry oranges to market without losing half on the way, and I will put your name on a stone." He went into the halls where men with swords practiced herding and arranged it so that the men with the most skill taught the boys with the least money. He laughed at himself when he heard the speeches forming in his head and not in his mouth and tried to remember that a city is made with hands and not only with words. In the evenings, he opened the windows and let the city come in. It smelled of fish and piss and ashen bread. It smelled like the world. On a day when the sky had decided not to weep and the wind had made peace with the roofs, a small procession entered the city from the Rose Road. Banners that looked like conversations between a woman and a river, the sound of silk talking to leather, the soft clack of beads, the smell of a distant desert. Arian Martell dismounted in the yard and stood a moment to let men discover whether their mouths still worked. She kissed her uncle and then stepped aside and counted quietly to herself the number of men in the corners who wore expressions they thought were invisible. "You will kill us," she said sweetly into her uncle's ear. "With your beauty, it will be very fashionable of us and very stupid. You will save us," he said. "With your hunger, it will be very invisible and very deliberate." They stood together on the platform and spoke to the city as if it could learn a new language by being spoken to slowly. Arianne did not shout. She spoke as if into the ear of a single person who happened to have the same face as everyone else. Men returned home to their wives and repeated her words and found that their mouths liked the shape of them. Cersei watched from shadow and hated beautifully. She placed men where they would be found when she wished them to be found, alive or dead. She spoke to the faith in a voice that pretended to be penitent and found that they heard what they wanted to hear. She stole from the granaries and made a gift of the bread, and those who did not love Oberyn loved bread. She taught Tommen to be a shield and hated him for the weight it cost her arms. The days arranged themselves. They did not fall into a pattern. They resisted it on principle. But there was a rhythm to the stubbornness with which the city refused to be ruled and then, in stolen moments, allowed itself to be governed. At night, Oberyn and Illyria lay with their noses close and told each other what they had seen. They were honest in a way that left marks that did not show. "I saw a woman who loves you," Illyria said, always amused when she said it, always cruel, always kind. "She loves you because you remind her of a man she met when she was very young who told her she was visible. If you fail to remain visible to her, she will hate you more than she hates the ones who never saw her at all." "I saw a man who will try to kill me and fail," Oberyn said. "It will break him. He will make of that failure a kind of religion. He will recruit. I will have to let him live long enough to teach me when to forgive a man not because he deserves it but because hate is very expensive and I have to buy other things." They laughed sometimes. It sounded odd in the rooms where kings had starved their laughter to prove they were serious, but the sound did not break anything. In a chapel where the stones had learned the habit of whispering back when men prayed, a young septa knelt and asked the mother whether it was permissible to love the sight of a king who did not kneel. The mother did not answer. The air did, with a small shift in temperature. The girl stood and wiped her eyes and resolved to feed the next hungry child she saw without counting the coins left in the basket. She did and found that she was not poorer. In a tavern near the mud gate, a sellsword held forth to an audience of 2 about the nature of honor. He had washed. He had new boots. He had earned both in a way that made him ill if he stared at it too long. "It is very fine," he said, "to tell the truth until you have to pay with it. Then it is less fine. Then it is a bill. My father taught me to pay bills. I hated him for it and he died all the same. I will pay this one and hope I am not cheated." A woman at the next table lifted her tankard and met his eyes and drank. She had a scar under her lip that made all her smiles look like news. The city went on making itself. It made of the new king a man it could endure. It made of the old fears new songs. It yielded and resisted by turns, like a lover who has learned the pleasures of refusal. The sea learned his name and then forgot it and then learned it again when a ship came in heavy with grain and the captain shouted in a dialect that made the dockhands laugh and released his cargo without bribing anyone and went away bewildered without being poorer. On the 7th day, as he had promised, Oberyn stood again upon the platform and admitted what he had failed to do. He spoke the names of those who had died because he had not been quick enough or careful enough. He did not ask forgiveness from the sky. He asked it from the people. They gave it and did not. It is an ongoing thing, forgiveness. It must be renewed as one renews a prayer and changes its words to suit the weather. "I will make enemies," he said, "more than I have earned. I will deserve some of them. I will not deserve others. I am, as you may have noticed, a man. That condition will persist. I ask you to persist as well. When I fail, do not call for a man who promises to have fewer failures. Call for a man who promises to acknowledge them out loud. In return, I will make you a thing that does not yet exist here, a habit of being listened to." He stepped down. The day tasted of tin and peaches and sweat. He placed a hand upon the stone where his foot had been and felt its cool, steady patience. He wondered how long he had, and then, because a king's time is the length of his next breath, he drew that breath and went to work.